Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, A-List Thugged, aka White Boy D-Voice, aka another racially ambiguous goiper, and I'm here to tell you that Jesus loves you and Christ is King. Unfortunately, though, that comes alongside some pretty terrible things. Good to see everybody in here, though. Craig Butler, Smelly Balls, Goy Nips, M the Goat, Hagen D's Nuts, I think I already said Smelly Bull. Say Smelly again. Craig again. Tix Bomber, Nightbot, as always, Goy Nips, Mr. Moss, Romulus. Good to see everybody in here. Whitey Apps and 40 Wine, 40 Deep. Good to see all of you guys in here right off of the rep. We have a good show for you guys today. We're going to be covering a good bit of what's happened over the weekend as well as what happened today. A lot of that obviously revolving around Lindsey Graham. This oddness, this suddenness, if you will, of Lindsey Graham appearing on TV, and then, hey, Vanilla Gorilla, let's see, brother. We have, he's appearing on TV, and again, by all appearances, Lindsey Graham is in a good spot. He's doing his typical tour over in Ukraine, because it seems to be Lindsey Graham, for whatever reason, is either in Ukraine or he's in Israel. Very rarely do you ever see him in South Carolina, but alas, that is another story. And unfortunately, Lindsey Graham, as was being reported, after he had came back to Capitol Hill, to his residence there, he had passed away from what I'm reading as a aorta. It's some kind of aorta dissection related to cardiovascular disease. So he did pass at 71 years old, and almost immediately we have some of the conspiracy theories going around. And what I would say actually is I find a lot of it to be a bit more suspect and believable and something to pay attention to. I think that some other conspiracies that are going around, but we'll get into that too. And on a side note, obviously the development is pretty sudden, kind of coming in from out of nowhere. The secondary development to this is the fact that now they need a replacement. And with Lindsey Graham gone, what do you do? He still has a term to be served. And we covered the Mark Lynch versus Lindsey Graham versus Paul Dans and what that race occurred. And he had just won it. And he won it pretty handily, actually. He avoided a runoff. I'm forgetting when the actual primary was ran. So that's the secondary development to this. And actually, it turns out his sister will be taking over the reins. It was early, had been endorsed by Trump. I believe he posted on Truth Social that his sister would be taking the place of Lindsey Graham, or should be recommending that she should be appointed by either the governor or the lieutenant governor. And then we got around 4 o'clock. It was confirmed and announced by the governor that she has been appointed. And we'll get into a little bit about her. But she basically was Lindsey Graham's biggest fan. And I don't find anything to be particularly like suspect in terms of like nefarious here, but it is obviously like it's an extending circumstance. They're just trying to kind of fill the gap, if you will. And as far as what I'm reading, she's only going to be there until January of 2027. So she's essentially going to be finishing out this year, and there still will be a special election. And so in the beginning period of they were kind of concerned, like, is she just going to appoint her? We're not going to worry about it. They're going to try to hold some kind of special election now. What do we do with that? So they still will be having the special election for who's going to be taking over the reins afterwards. But she is going to be serving, as far as I understand, until January 3rd, 2027. The third development out of this actually is one that I would say was there at the beginning and is still happening now, which is this kind of gaslighting that's been going on in terms of some people were saying good riddance. Obviously, Lindsey Graham, he is no friend to this show. He's no friend to America, I would even say. Lindsey Graham is someone who I would say is actually probably, in all accounts, ostensibly is a traitor to this country in terms of who his interests lied with, more so with wars more than anything. And second, maybe you can even say secondary to that, Israel. Maybe it was the primary, because that's what defined Lindsey Graham. What defined Lindsey Graham was his war hawkishness, was his neoconness, and the two things he loved most was blowing up children 1,000 miles overseas and Israel. And what was weird about this was almost in the onset, people like Tim Pool and many others came out and were like, I'm not gonna stand and spit on the grave of Lindsey Graham. I'm not gonna do that. Then it's just a big load of BS because obviously everybody knows who he is. A lot of weird virtue signaling happening. So the gaslighting was happening. And it just made no sense really, because everybody who's paid attention to politics knows the meme of him holding blood feast, like he's probably one of the most least liked politicians in the entire space. Everyone's gaslighting because Lindsey Graham is gone. So Nick Fuentes tweeted that. PineSap even tweeted that. Anna Kasparian tweeted something to the effect of, what you would say, good riddance, things to that nature. And it wasn't just them. There was more people who'd said that, obviously. And some people did say worse, I will say. But the virtue signaling was disgusting. I was like throwing up in my mouth, just trying to digest some of these people's takes. I even saw Phil Labonte, one of the regular co-hosts. I don't even know if he's there anymore because who watches Timcast? But he was even coming out there and virtue signaling. And it's like, listen, I remember what the timeline looked like, a few months ago when Kamani was blasted and basically liquidated, if you will. When Kamani was liquidated, you had people even like Mark Levin. He was comparing that to Hitler dying, celebrating like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, thank the Lord he's dead. And to just see this kind of like this weird back and forth, it's like, the virtue signaling, again, it's just disgusting to me, but that's another thing. So the kind of three layers to this development here, and we'll talk all about it too. And even before the appointment for the backup, his sister, nice to see you, Falwell, it was being floated out there that like Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was like fielding calls to take the position or to take the spot. There was a lot of worries, and I think part of the reason why the appointment even came in too is a lot of the worries was coming from the House Republicans were actually lobbying that they didn't want an appointment to come from the House because the House Republicans already have an extremely slim majority. So they were like, you're not taking any of us. Like, no way. And so what it seemed to be was they were looking for other ways, other places they could pull from that would not take away what was already a very slim majority in the House away from them. It's so much so that they were looking at somebody like Scott Bessent, pulling him away from the literal Treasury Secretary position. And part of the reason for that is because Scott Bessent is a South Carolina native. So there's kind of some back and forth on there. We'll touch upon some of the conspiracy elements of this too, because again, the coincidence being the fact that obviously he's in the region that is a warring region. These two countries are blowing each other up. It's getting pretty worse. We're in the 5th year, so 4 years have passed. We are now in the 5th year of this war going on, and kind of wild and kind of sad to even have to say that. And it's not going well for either side. It seems to be Russia's been taking more of the heat here lately. And from what we understand is that Lindsey Graham was touring a drone facility. And while he was in this drone facility, I think there was even video or pictures that were shared. And then kind of the next thing everybody sees on the timeline is that he has been killed. So it wasn't a far reach to kind of think that perhaps there was some nefarious element inside of that. And before we even got some of the details, there were kind of two different theorems that were coming around. One was the fact that Russia is obviously, they are known for some of what their poisons can do to be able to mimic heart attacks and other cardiovascular diseases. But even prior to that, some people were expecting, like, maybe they just blown the drone facility up. Now, I didn't end up confirming that, but that was one of the first ones. And I do think that one's less believable than what we ended up seeing. But again, the coincidence is there, which is like, this is be a lot more believable. This is a very sudden thing. This is actually believable. And I do think that people's speculation into this is warranted. The third thing, the reason why the supplemental information, some of it's coming from the former CIA agent, Larry Johnson, which I forget what platform he was on when he was pushing this, but it's come from others too. They are saying actually that the date of time in which the call was notified for Lindsey Graham came around like 8:30 o'clock Eastern time was too early. It was logistically impossible, is what they're saying. And the reason they're saying this is because people were backtracking and looking at the commercial and standard times to go to and from the areas that Lindsey Graham was in, and then the flight travel back to the West Coast, back to America. People were saying that is logistically impossible. But a lot of them were omitting the reality, which they fly private, they fly militarily. So there's a lot to get into with the Lindsey Graham story as well. The Iran war, however, the next thing I want to get into, the Iran war is obviously escalating. We're probably at the maximum escalation that we've been in for a hot minute, actually, with these people attacking each other, smacking each other bombs going off. And what we're looking at now is that obviously the MOU is completely falling apart. About an hour ago, Kalshi reported that Trump has actually formally declared, or formally notified to Congress that we are in war with Iran. So it seems we were kind of walking away from this back and forth, he said, she said, this rhetoric game, and actually going full send. And the reason for that is because at this point where we are, it really is concerning in the element of how America is going to be able to get out of the situation that we are in. And a lot of that is riding upon, obviously, the MOU was kind of bullshit in the first place. It was a fragile agreement at best. The second element to that is obviously the fact that one of the big elements that Iran has in terms of leverage without us jumping up the escalation ladder is the fact that Iran is able to reconstitute their ballistic missiles and basically their defense systems much faster than we can produce our own defense systems as well as our own missiles that we are attacking them with. And the reason why this plays into it is because the longer if we back away from Iran again, then they get another free pass, more months, more time outside of conflict that allows them to fully rebuild and fully go back to building their ballistic missile systems, repairing their programs, and continuing their, what seems to be, now I would imagine they are, their pursuit of a nuclear weapon. And at this point, I mean, obviously, of course they would. I mean, at this point, all bets are off. Obviously, I think it is very known by Iran at this point that the United States of America is unwilling to allow their existence so long as Israel's not getting restrained. And clearly and obviously, this is being driven by Israeli components, both here in America as well as overseas. And the reason why now I would imagine that this idea, the potential for Iran to actually pursue not only just their enriched uranium, but also continue it and finish the project, whether it be a primitive warhead or something to that effect, is because that is the permanent deterrent. A nuclear warhead is and has been a permanent deterrent for some time. You know, this is kind of the North Korea problem, which is the fact that North Korea, I mean, as much as we know what they do and as much as they may attack their own population, they run this extreme communist. You don't hear politicians beating on the chest all the time about all of our aims to go to war with North Korea. And the reason being is because North Korea does possess nuclear technology. They possess nuclear warheads. I'm forgetting the amount off the top of my head, but that is the reason they are able to deter people, is because if you want to go in and you want to get that, it's, for one, it will be extremely complex. The military operation would have to account for casualties, and you're also opening up the chance, the reality in which you actually escalate into full nuclear warfare. So, with that being said, at this point, with the way in the direction the war is going, it would not surprise me or behoove me to imagine that we actually see a rather extreme escalation. In what format that takes, I'm unsure. Now, obviously, nuclear warfare, I think, is obviously on the table and always will be on the table, especially when you have somebody like Trump at the helm. Now, what's wild and something I want to pay attention to that I just caught actually before I went live was the reality that supposedly Donald Trump had admitted to using nuclear warfare. I'm unsure if this is actually a slip up or if he actually meant it. I do have the clip. We'll watch it here in just a second. But there seems to be three ways in which that you could escalate this. And we've talked about this a bunch. I won't bore everyone to death with going back and rehashing a lot of this because I know many of you are familiar with this. But just for those, just to refresh everybody, you have three pathways. Obviously, the ground invasion, which has been talked about and even been formulated to some degree, in which they were looking at taking Karg Island, and in some kind of format in which they would actually be able to essentially, in an energy escalation, be able to kind of cap the knees out of Iran by limiting their ability to actually maneuver their own oil and their profit model for it. And so ground invasion, boots on the ground. The first, nuclear warfare, which I think is actually behind the ground invasion. I would imagine we would do a ground invasion first, but just thinking of the overall casualties in this is just a hard pill to swallow. So you have nuclear warfare, you have ground invasion, or we go back to the table where we have been and we re-escalate and we go to actual full-blown regime assassination strikes. Now, we did do this in the very beginning. We did this actually specifically, which is what basically eliminated all of Khamenei and Khamenei's family. Everybody beside his son, which is now the supreme leader, which I think he has a little bit of a separate, different title. It's been a minute since I read what his title was. And I would actually suspect that would be the route that we go first, something that looks a lot closer to another decapitation strike. And the way this essentially works and would operate would be you go back to the table and you bomb, you fleet bomb basically all the targets and all the areas. You gather all the intelligence and you try to coordinate this as quickly as possible to do the max amount of assassinations in the quickest amount of time to avoid having to re-coordinate or coming back to another assassination strike. And the thought process there is essentially, well, if we take out another whole the third string again of all these guys, that's kind of where we are, right? Many of the first string of the RGC have already been eliminated. A lot of the second string of the RGC have been eliminated, although there still are some second string guys remaining. And it's kind of a wild thing too, for those who might not be familiar with the military makeup of Iran, is you can kind of look at it, and there was a graphic that someone put together not too long ago. I wish I had it in front of me. And when you look at the graphic, it is literally looks like a depth chart for like a football team, where you have like all of these military positions and all these general positions too. And you have, this is who's in charge. And then if this guy goes, here's number 2, and then here's number 3. And so the graphic had a lot of these positions mapped out to like the third. The concept would seem to be that if we go back in with assassination strikes, you wipe out more of the leadership. And once you wipe out that wave of leadership, well, now you have new people to negotiate with. And if you have new people to negotiate with, well, now you can perhaps get a deal. Now perhaps you're negotiating with somebody who's a lot younger, a lot less skilled, a lot less convicted. Now you're negotiating with somebody who just saw the person ahead of them who was leading the charge while Iran was so gallantly winning against the United States is now in 4 different pieces across the room. The concept would be, is there a psychological element to this? Of like, if we don't take the deal and we keep pushing where our guys were at, we may be next. So there's a bit of a shock factor, a fear factor, a psychological element to this. But there is this element that's kind of like the last rung on the ladder, where if we go back in with assassination strikes, or say in another format, say our lack of intelligence, or say our intelligence just isn't good enough to even get to being able to do assassination strikes, it may warrant some, again, complex ground operation, and whether it be big or small, that automatically jumps it up to the second escalation ladder, which would be a ground invasion. So if you get boots on the ground, even if it's a small amount, I mean, imagine if you just seen a team of like, a couple small squads, and say it goes horribly wrong. And this is something that, I mean, this hypothetically here, obviously would never wish this or want this in the first place. But if that were to go poorly, much like how the majority of the war has been going for America so far, well, then the news is, well, then either the United States is in a position where they have to lie about casualties, which some people are already thinking is happening, or it does get reported, it is realized, and now it puts us in a position of, well, they basically just slaughtered a bunch of our military brass. And then that just continues this. And so I think the main point really I want to get across is, it seems that there is no way off. It seems that there is no off ramp for the escalation that keeps happening. And it seems to be, it is a slow drip into further escalation. And the reason why we can't back out, the reason why we can't walk away, is because if we do walk away without getting what we want, which now is working backwards, we're trying to get this straight back to being reopened, which was already open before the war. Well, all these energy pressures are going to start crippling elements in areas like they already have been. But even further than that is because if we don't get the nuclear warhead, or we don't get the nukes, we don't get the enriched uranium, well, Iran will have another clean path, another couple of months, a few weeks, if you will, depending on how long the break may be, because then they're going to go back to reconstituting their ballistic missiles. They're going to go back to reconstituting their drone factories. And what you get with that is, well, if they're reconstituting all of that, and they can, and they will do it much faster than what we can do it, well, then they just keep getting in a better position while we're in this flailing battle of attrition that we can't keep up with because of how expensive our munitions are, but also because of the fact that we're waging the war. So everything has to be taken overseas. We have to transfer everything, and we're obviously operating from a weaker position. And on that pathway, it will have a wide open path for Iran to basically pursue the nuclear warheads to get to the permanent deterrent. Now, I say permanent deterrent because in most scenarios, and for the most part historically, nuclear warheads have served as deterrents. I mean, just think of the Cold War. The Cold War is predicated around this reality, which is mutually assured destruction. It's like, I know you have warheads, and you know we have warheads, and so if we do anything really beyond like stand here in our subs and shoot at each other with 9mm, it's gonna get bad, and that would just essentially lead to the full blown out, radioactive fallout. And that's between the United States and the USSR, the former Soviet Union. With Iran, it may be a little bit different, depending on how primitive it may be. And depending on how the willingness of some of these individuals, like Trump and like the Israeli diaspora, the Jewish diaspora, and the Israelis themselves, who are chomping at the bit and seemingly have no care for what they may lose in this. So there is some kind of erratic nature to this, but I think that is the pathway that Iran would seek. And I mean, if you are Iran, why would you not seek it at this point? If the reality is the United States will not stop unless they in some way they win the war at whatever cost that may be, one of them being that the United States is trying to step upon your sovereignty and tell you what you are and aren't allowed to do in terms of energy production, whether it's nuclear or not. Iran at this point, seeing all the writing on the wall, why would they not pursue the nuclear weapon? Because in their eyes, that would produce peace. It would produce deterrence. You know, I think obviously inside of that, though, it does run the risk of seeing how willing America and the rest of the world is in terms of not wanting to see a Middle Eastern country outside of Israel not be a nuclear country. And so I think some of that is yet to be seen, but that seems to be where the Iran war is. We'll get to some of these updates too. W to Millie Reed for becoming a watcher. I appreciate that. W for re-subbing up for being a member. I appreciate that, man. Huge. And good to see everybody else in here too. Everything goes. Jason Schmidt, and everybody else who has walked in here or has started watching the stream a little bit ago. I appreciate it. Everything goes says, I'm late. Did y'all see Jake Monroe? Yeah, the goth guy fed jacketing Nick. I did not see that. I did see that Sneeko did it. I actually was in the $100 group chat. Shameless plug for those who maybe perhaps have the money. It is, I think, well worth it. And again, I will always say this too. Massive shout out to what's his face? Secret95, forgive me. I had to think about it for a second. That is the person who ultimately gave me access to the $100 group chat, and I will forever be thankful for it. It is well worth the money. And so I have not been paying much to the Sneeko stuff because I ultimately think the brown clowning is a little bit too much. But I did see, W, what's his face? It's funny. Yeah, my eyes are terrible. But I did see that Sneeko has begun doing the Fed jacketing again. I think Sneeko recently brought up January 6th towards Nick Fuentes, but in the same breath, Nick also brought up how Sneeko's bringing it up, and then also Dan Kazarian has dropped it almost completely, and now Dan's going after him for different things. And I think Jake Shields and Dan Blazerian are going at Nick specifically for one of his recent takes on what are they called? The flock cameras, which I will be fair and honest with you. I've not seen too much about the flock cameras. I've seen people mad about them, but I've more so seen it from the lens of people mad at Nick's take about them. So I'll have to do some digging and look into them. As far as I understand, it seems to be another extension of our surveillance network. But I feel also at the same time, my first thought was, people are mad at like flock cameras, but your phone literally tracks everything you do. But people won't put their phones down to save their lives, let alone stop buying. People don't even go out of their way to buy like the already produced like what's the one? Is it the one by like Eric Prince? There's a few different people who make these kind of phones that come with like no tracking stuff, and it's like, bro, people are like so lazy. like we're gonna go burn down these and take down these flock cameras, but like I'm doing it while I'm carrying my iPhone that's directly came from Verizon that's tracking and listening to everything. So that's kind of an opening just into there too. I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, Foulball and Capo did do an excellent job yesterday. Yeah, for those who might have missed it, Foulball runs a show on NAV on Sunday, and it's called the Right Wing Pulse, and he had Capo on yesterday. Forgive me, I'm kind of forgetting what day it is. It's Monday, isn't it? Man. But yes, they did a great job. I think many people said Capo. They wanted an encore. So perhaps maybe we'll see a lot more co-hosting on there. And I will say too, this is an announcement as well. Because we have Saturday coming up. But Foulball will be making an appearance on the Groyper Report. Hopefully not the next Groyper Report this weekend, but the one that comes after. We have to do some coordinating there, but we should see Foulball on the Groyper Report as well too. And I think I saw a wild Joshua VanDerNoord in the chat room somewhere too. Good to see all of you guys in here too. And it was funny that Capo had no idea he was supposed to be on the show. That was actually hilarious. It's funny that he was like ignoring the DMs too. Getting hit up. He's just ignoring everything too. I thought that was kind of funny. But I referenced the $100 group chat to keep me in this vein. And the reason why I brought this up is because Nick brought this point up and wholeheartedly I've been seeing it for a while. And that point was specifically on the Fed jacketing of him bringing up January 6th. And it was kind of like in the same vein of how the Daily Riot talked about it, where when Daily Riot, we had our debate with him and Zeb Boykin not too long ago. Daily Riot says that, You know, he was aware. He saw the J6 stuff, but it didn't bother him at all until like last week. Now all of a sudden last week, now we have a problem with what happened at January 6th, and now he's got questions, and now he's not so sure. You know, 4 years later, even though he listened to him throughout that period, thought nothing of it until the Charlie Kirk situation, and now all of a sudden it's wow, he might be a Fed. You know, Sneeko, same, and Sneeko's a little bit worse, obviously. Sneeko knowing him as a friends with him, Sneeko inviting Nick into his home, they're exchanging, they have each other's numbers, and now all of a sudden he's like, now he believes that he's a federal agent. It's like, okay. And the point that Nick really made on this was it's less of an accusation anymore, as it is more so just an expression of resentment. And I think this is wholeheartedly true. I mean, when you just think of directly after RD was done trying to attack me, the next stream that he goes and puts up is specific to, you know, calling Nick a Fed. You know, something to that effect. It was like degen maxing, I think is what he called it. But it does seem to be that it's an expression of resentment more so than anything. And then people just drop it. And I think Dan Kazarian in the same vein. I think if Dan Kazarian actually felt that wholeheartedly about what you would see a lot more digging, a lot more investigation into it, a lot more facts. And then no, it's brought up once in a post and then never again. You don't see it after that. So it does really call into question just how much these people actually believe it, or how much they're just throwing it out there because it's such a toxic, blunt kind of smear where the people who don't know are merely kind of thrown into oh, wait a minute, what happened? And depending on whose X post you see first, we'll give you an entirely different narrative on what occurred that day. Beyond those two things, those are kind of two of the major things in the political realm. I guess we'll get into a bit of the culture stuff. Clavicular went to Israel, which I thought was a little bit hilarious. But many people were crashing out about it, were angry about it. You know, I think even Marcus inside of the Discord had said something to the effect of, you know, no way, Nick's got to disavow him now. And, you know, I actually, it's one of those things where it's a rare time, but I did feel relatable to Nick in the sense of, like, I have friends who I disagree with wholeheartedly, and one of those people, you guys know, one of those people is Zeb Boykin, right? And Zeb Boykin, I disagree with on a whole lot of. I mean, we agree on a lot, don't get me wrong. We agree on more than what we disagree with, actually. It's probably a better way to say that. But I would hope that nobody would ever come to me and expect me to disavow Zeb for something he says politically, because at the end of the day, he's still my friend, you know. And I kind of felt that in that same vein, people demanding that Nick go out of his way. You must disavow. You can't, you know, Clav can't even go to Israel. And I think, you know, and maybe I'll give a little bit of information on this too, because I'm also not sure how familiar many of the people who are in the political scene are up to speed with like who Clavicular and what Clavicular is. And you know, and he's a bit of an autist, right? I appreciate the looks maxing. I just appreciate the fact that he is kind of this entity, this autistic guy who's like, you know, all I care about is looks maxing. All I want is looks maxing. All I can think about is looks maxing. And he goes out of his way to say I'm like not a political guy. And as Rami is pointing out, his visit backfired. This is actually what we're going to be watching here in a second, reacting to, is the fact that Clavicular, in one of these interviews, he's like getting irritated. He's like, because they're bringing up the Clubacost song. They're like demanding like he give like a statement out for like people who are anti-Semitic. And he's like, bro, what the he like just gets mad. And he was like, bro, like, you understand that people are like, I was trying to do you a favor by like coming here and like kind of showing you the good side of what Israel is. And now I'm getting interrogated by like anti-Semitism and some club song that was played like months ago. You're making me answer it for it. So in two parts, during the interview, we'll watch the interview itself, but he also went on stream afterwards and then talked about how he felt about this interview. And I think actually he has already left Israel. I think he cut his trip short because of that instance, and now he's on the way back. And so once again, Israel shooting themselves in the foot because they can't stop being themselves. So Ned Grouper says, where was Zeb when Senator Graham passed away? Just asking questions. That's what it feels like. It is what it feels like. And it's on both sides too, on both elements. Well, you know, and I think, you know, Nick pointed out when Buckley Carlson did this not too long ago on the timeline, but it was, you know, when Candace is right, it's like, wow, Candace is wow, Candace is on the ball. When Candace is wrong about something, it's oh no, it's because like they're throwing her off the scent. It's because they're manipulating it. You just don't know. So it's like whether she's right, or she's wrong, she's right. Same thing with Ian Carroll. It's like, doesn't matter what bullet is used. Like, bro, you could put like a Call of Duty photo up and he'd be like, dude, see that wins my argument. It's like, bro, what? Like, what are we doing here? That doesn't make any sense at all. And so it's like on either vein, it's like it's if it's wrong, it's right, and if it's right, it's right. And it kind of ropes in a little bit of this, like this dogmatic element of it too. You know, you think a little bit of this this religious kind of element to it. These people, it's become a religion to them. You know, it's dogmatic. There's no and it's very similar to like what the left wing is. Like a lot of these like these leftist freaks, if you will, these insane psychopaths where it doesn't matter. I mean, think about this too. Like, how long have you guys been alive where the information of like how a man can't get pregnant is like right there? Okay, do you like, has anyone got to like go out of their way to go read about how you like a man can't get pregnant? No, but it doesn't matter. And why doesn't it matter? Because these people don't care. They don't live in reality. So it's the whole thing of like, it doesn't matter that it's been in the encyclopedia, that it's been historically understood, that you can prove with biology, that you can go down to like the cellular level and show this shit. It doesn't matter because they won't accept reality. Okay. So that I see this in the same vein of some of these people where it's like, it wouldn't matter at all what would be put down, what could be written about, what could come out in the transcripts, what data could come out, what evidence, what exhibit. It doesn't matter because they will find a way to deflect away from it, to demean it, to reduce its credibility, to say it's not real. Much in the same light that I feel like many of these people on the left wing treat like, you know, the LGBTQ play, whatever it is now, which it doesn't matter how much you can show that homosexual relationships lead to a significant, life expectancy. It doesn't matter that you can show that these things, these groups, these families built on homosexuality, the adoption of children, leads to an extremely higher chance of, you know, child molestation, child abuse. Doesn't matter. All that matters is the fact that they want it, they feel like they want it, and so they're going to do it anyways. Because for one, the government holds their hands back on a lot of this, and two, because so many people who agree with us by all accounts, or the center, if you will, or whatever that even means, tolerate it, and they sit there and they are cowardice, and they just they would rather not be bothered. And some days I actually do feel that, you know, I literally can't be bothered to argue with this person right now. I'm sure many of you have been in that situation too. You know, that this fat whale of a woman who's got 18 different colors of hair, you know, coming to tell you about like how this great LGBTQ plus parade is happening in town, and she's so excited, and you're just like, yeah, dude. Yeah, that's just like, because you'll do anything in that moment to like, please don't talk to me. Like, please, I cannot be bothered to continue this conversation. But really the point in there being is it does seem to be that there is some kind of like mechanism that, whether intentional or unintentional, or maybe it's just the makeup of the people who are actually going in deep into this, that it wouldn't matter what would be put in front of them, is because, for one, they're operating from a conclusion, trying to find evidence. And secondarily, it's like a religion. It's got all the principles. It's like it's dogmatic. And also too, like I literally couldn't be caught dead following the tracks of a black woman who previously used to be a leftist, who by all accounts is a notorious grifter. I mean, Candace Owens is like a lying freak. You know, I want people to really take that to heart. Like, she literally operated a doxing network. Wherever the money was at, she would go. But people forget things when it's convenient. And let alone, and it's funny too, because it's like all the Wignats are like wholeheartedly lockstep agreeing with Candace Owens, like the Black Queen's leading the Wignats. It's like, dude, we live in idiocracy, is what it feels like. You know, all the white nationalist guys wholeheartedly like, yeah, Candace is right about that, dude. Candace is going to get to the bottom of the truth. Yeah, God told Candace, and we know, like, you just sometimes you just got to take a breath. You just got to take a breath. You just got to take a breath, and you know what? You just got to move on. So that's kind of a little bit from the Clavicular in the Israel interview. And also, what we also got too is, so Nick and Hunter Biden sat down with, I believe his name is Andrew Callahan, or Callahan, don't care. His name's Andrew. Sat down with Andrew from Channel 5, and who, I believe this guy, you might be familiar with him. For those who aren't familiar with him, this guy is the one that did the interview with Nick Shirley that was like heavily edited. And there's like a bit of back and forth where Nick Shirley called him out. He was like, hey, you deleted all these things. You kept me out of context. Supposedly, Andrew Callahan sat down with Hunter Biden and Nick Fuentes for an interview. And that was the first news that we got. The second news that followed directly after, I think, when TMZ dropped their article, because I think they were the first on the scene, or the first to report this, is that it's funny that supposedly they got close to throwing hands. So I'm kind of curious to understand like what the sentiment was behind like why they got close to throwing hands. Now, can you believe TMZ? Not really, but that's what's being reported. I'm curious to understand and see what happened. And as far as I know, as far as what I can understand about it, is that actually Andrew Callahan was already in contact with Hunter Biden, trying to get an interview done, and that Nick was the one reaching out to Channel 5 to get a interview because Nick was saying that he wanted an update. He wanted to get a chance on a platform to kind of talk about the evolution of some of his thought processes, and they decided, well, hey, why don't we get you both? And that seemed to be the element in why they got all that taken together and how that happened. But the throwing hands part is what's funny about that. I'm curious because now I think now everyone's kind of primed to want to watch it is because, wait, they almost threw hands at one point? Because in the same article, it talks about how they agreed on a lot. They agreed, it was fine. They were chuckling with each other. And then I guess at one sentiment, they wanted to throw hands. So I am curious what that may have been. What would have caused Hunter Biden to get unhinged? Because I can't imagine it was Nick getting mad and standing up and throwing hands. I can only imagine where Nick is dropping something and Hunter Biden's like getting irritated and he perhaps leaping out of a chair. Who knows how much it would have got, how far it would have gotten. And also another smaller, this is just a short piece. There's a national address. Trump announced this, I believe, earlier today for July 16th for 9 p.m. Eastern. And I believe what we know about this is it's going to be relevant to, I think, I know it's relevant to 2020 in the election, but it seems to also perhaps maybe pertain to Fauci. Maybe there's some supporting and supplemental information about this too. I just saw that and threw it in the outline at the last minute, but it seems to not be about the Iran war. It seems to be actually about Fauci 2020 and some elements that were set to be newly declassified information. Now remembering newly declassified information from what Tulsi Gabbard did in some of her final kind of days, or I guess in her final moments there in office. So there's that going on, and obviously a whole deck of other things happening. A lot of things that we can react to. We are going to be doing the Kick stream too here in a couple of hours, or I guess here in an hour and a half when we move over to Kick. So I'll save the React content for then. Go ahead and get into some of these stories here. But again, one of the first things I wanted to play here for you guys, I'll just go ahead and go to the watch screen here now while we're on here. Actually, this is hilarious from Indie Groiper W. So two things. The first thing I want to point you to, going back to the Iran war, is that just in, Trump has reportedly formally notified Congress that the United States is at war with Iran. And this was the one that I really wanted to see here too. It says, breaking this from Megatron, Trump says he used a nuclear weapon to hit Iran and stop developing their own nuclear weapon. Now, I have not listened to this. I literally only saw it the last minute. Here's the quote. It says they were going to have a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks had I not hit them with the nuclear. And so I'm curious if that was a slip up or if he actually meant the words that came out of his mouth. Forgive me, you cannot hear that, can you? 1 second, let me get this switched off. It's still on Project Zomboid from last night. That's hilarious. Okay, now you guys should hear it restarting.
He's done a good job. If I wasn't around, or if Bibi wasn't around, especially the combination, Israel would not exist today. We wouldn't have hit him with the B-2 bombers. They were going to have a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Had I not hit them with a nuclear, within 2 to 4 weeks, they would have had a nuclear weapon. And once they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. And you wouldn't even have Israel around. No, Bibi's good.
Is there anyone in Israel better than him to do the job? Is there anyone better than Bibi?
Well, I don't know most of them. I know some of them, obviously, but I don't know most of them.
I'm just going to play that one more time.
He's done a good job. If I wasn't around, or if Bibi wasn't around, especially the combination, Israel would not exist today. We wouldn't have hit him with the B-2 bombers. They were going to have a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Had I not hit them with a nuclear, within 2 to 4 weeks, they would have had a nuclear weapon.
So I still can't tell. I actually really can't tell. I can't tell if it's because he said nuclear like 10 times in a row, that he's having a little bit of a slip, or if he actually means that. Either way, we'll need some clarification on this. That does seem to be interesting. The B-2 bunker buster, that's what it was. Yeah, B-2 bunker buster. We did drop that. That was Operation Midnight Hammer. It seems to be he's referencing something that happened afterwards. The 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. But that is a step into where and so you can see the timelines all loaded with here's Ethan Levins. Wait, did Trump just say he used a nuclear bomb on Iran? That is interesting. I guess we're going to find out. We're going to need clarification on this, especially if it came with a formal declaration of war to Congress, or a notification to Congress, if you will. And I think one thing I'll add on that too, inside of this, is part of the reason of why obviously that the MOU is completely done, and it's been I think it's misspoken too. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna lean towards I think he misspoke. So the reason why the MOU started falling apart again was in part because of the southern route of the strait, which is on the, it's closer to Oman, it's further away from Iran, and it seemed to be that there were ships trying to get through and navigate through there without without checking in, right? You guys familiar with this? Like all the black people, they talk about how when you come to my city, you better check in, right? You better check in with me. It's like, so maybe a terrible referencing. The audience is all white. Iran was getting irritated that these boats, these commercial ships, these cargo ships that were transiting through the strait and hugging the southern shore were not going through the process of paying the fee, the toll through Iran to get through. And so that's when Iran started striking. They were striking ships that were not going through that process. And this is what caused the United States to return the retaliation. And now the funny part about this is that, I wouldn't say funny, we are reinstating on the naval blockade, and it's going to be on Iran. And so we're going to be preventing, and this is going to be set to starting tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern. And the idea is that we're not going to be allowing any Iranian ships both leaving or entering the ports. In addition to that, the next thing that they want to add on to this too is that they want to also, the United States is claiming, and I haven't seen an initiative or how they're going to get this out, how they're going to play around with this. But now the United States is the one saying they're going to be charging the toll. And in the same breath, Trump is also talking about how the United States is going to be the guardian of the strait. We are the guardians now of the strait. And it's only fair that these ships that are transiting through here, we are going to charge a fee of 20% for safe passage of these cargo ships. Now, I saw earlier, and I couldn't find it again. I saw earlier that it seemed to be that 20% was going to be relevant to like the weight of the ship, or like based on like the sum of the goods they had on the ship. And so herein, the thing that we told Iran that they couldn't do, we're turning around and saying, well, we're going to do it. We're going to do it to you, and we're going to be the ones charging the toll. And so now it's just, the whole thing's just gone off the rails. And I think, and it's because of this. Now, this seems small in and of the sense, but these are like the smaller, more proxy battles that are happening that are in relevance to the maybe more imperative strategic objectives of the different countries. And obviously, Iran is wanting to secure a deterrent permanently from both Israel and the United States to be able to continue existing as is, as the next evolution of the RGC, right? Continuing this kind of, this theocracy that they have. And it's yet to be seen if they'll maintain that same structure, but it's looking like the hard line's going to keep it that way. Whereas the United States and Israel, they want to be able to prevent Iran from being able to possess a nuclear warhead, because if they can possess a nuclear warhead, that permanently cuts them off from being able to expand, or Israel being able to expand, in two reasons. One, their Greater Israel Project, but secondarily, that they will not be able to possess hegemony in the region if Iran exists in the current power form that they are in, which is seemingly increasing by the day. And there is a reality in which if they do become a nuclear country, I think that will catapult them into being, I wouldn't even say a middling mid-power. I think they would probably ultimately become the strongest mid-power outside of what the superpowers are. You have Russia, you have China, you have us. Maybe you would say like France and like the UK. I'm trying to think of maybe a couple of the countries that would be up there. But then Iran's like just right there with them. And so that is obviously, that's a huge change of realities from like where they were a couple of years ago. Iran obviously is a big country, a prominent country, but in terms of their positioning and also the way that reflects into the rest of the geopolitical too, they didn't, they held off the United States, and now they possess nuclear warheads. And does anyone know where they are? What's the delivery system on them? That opens Iran's path of being able to, their right to exist, if you will, their permanent ability to exist may actually ride upon that. And, and Saudi Arabia is also involved in this too. I think that's one of the next escalations is in this as well. Saudi Arabia has been getting struck, but now they are also returning fire too. And I saw Myron Gaines commenting on that as well. So it seems to be the region is probably the most destabilized it has been since even like, I guess you would say maybe April. And it just isn't looking good. So wanted to make sure I cover that. That's going to be probably do it for the Iran war section of it. I know for some people it's kind of boring. It's just, it keeps happening. It's more and more and more and more. So I guess it's yet to be seen as we follow the updates. And for those too, I mean, many of you, maybe if you were following along, whether it's Freedom Navarum or you have any of these other kind of Telegram updates for what's going on in the war, I mean, it has just been like constantly. It's just like every 15 minutes, like a new country, a new base, whether it be Bahrain or Kuwait. And so the casualties on both sides have already gone up. You know, I've seen reports, I haven't seen any confirmation that we have more Americans have been either hurt or worse. I've also seen, I know for a fact, I think Iran has actually lost at least 14, I think it's either 11 or 14 people have already perished in some of these response strikes. And now you're having the Gulf countries are getting their own casualties. Military members, it's not from the UAE. Was it like Bahrain? There's a lot of this coming out. But the casualties are beginning to go up too. And this is also showing you again, I think, just these strikes are less symbolic, less specific, less very, you know, targeted for, you know, message purposes. They seem to be a lot more in the vein of like actually trying to seek maximalized damage to some of these people and in some of these regions as well. So it's unfortunate. And obviously we wouldn't want any of that. And I think it is yet to be seen too, like how accurate the United States has been on some of their casualty reporting. And I think that will kind of change the tune. I think if anything could really change the tune and sentiment of the American people is getting it plastered all over on the, you know, the mainstream TV, you know, how many Americans have died. And that could go either way. It could go like people see that and they're like, of course we got to respond. They killed our people. We have to go harder. We have to make sure they never do that again. Or the other way where people are like, see, like we're losing so many people. Like, can we not, let's stop doing this. We need to pull out immediately. The losses are already too great. And one thing I guess maybe I would add to that too, and I'm going to say this in a way that I'm hopefully, well, I'm always offensive, but maybe I just need to keep it that way. What have we seen all over the timeline for the past couple of, I would probably say even since like 2023? What's probably maybe the most prominent meme that we've seen in terms of just the dissident right, Israel, these Middle Eastern conflicts? Well, that meme is like, I'm not effing dying for Israel, right? I believe it's a still frame from Matthew McConaughey. You know, he's shirtless. He's got an Uzi in his hand, and he says, "I'm not dying for Israel." Well, people are already dying for Israel. It's happening again right now, and I point that out to say, and it goes back to, again, probably maybe more so some of these more broader calls for violence, these broader calls for revolution. And I'm not saying that to rub it in any way. I'm saying that to draw a point here, which is, it seemed to be that this thought process was if this was going to happen again, if we were going to go down this path again, then you'd really see some kind of revolution from people. You'd really see some people get up in arms and go, like, this is already too much. We can't have this happen. We need to revolt. But it's not happening because, again, my main point has been, I think the majority of people, especially the majority of people in the dissident right, overestimate just how much the normies pay attention, for one, and just how much the normies even care at all. And I've always been saying that in terms of like, well, here we are. The reality is, and it's looking like, if Iran keeps up the pace, we keep up the pace, we're going to see more people dying for Israel. And I'm just saying that to go, at what point do you guys expect, is there going to be some reality here soon where we begin to see like a revolution of some kind? Are people going to start taking up arms against the United States of America? No, I don't. It's the Walmart example. It's going back to who the average person is, how the average person feels, and the average person, yes, thank you, Intercessor. The average person is concerned about how much McDonald's they can get on their next paycheck, and if they can get home in time to watch Love Island. I'm not saying that as like it's a proud thing. I hate that. I really hate that. But you have to be able to recognize that there is no way, shape, or form that it's not even an option on the table. And which even gives further ammunition to the reality of, if you are someone who goes down that path, you're going to be one of the moles that stuck its head up, ready to get whacked. And you ultimately will be, and if you have a family, I would heavily tell you, like, please don't do that. You're going to ultimately just end up in prison and string your family out. And if you don't have a family, you're going to permanently kind of probably cut your access off to being able to do that. So it is to say too, until people can recognize that we have already evolved into the 4th and 5th generational warfare, I really don't know what to do with that. beyond try to, I guess, maybe remind you. And hopefully at some point we can get people to acknowledge the realities of which we are in. The human beings that won this country over in terms of biologically, there are already differences. I mean, the average person's mouth is like 20 to 25% smaller because people don't even eat real food anymore. They eat processed junk. They drink yogurt out of a cup. They drink their food through straws. So I say that to hopefully draw across this idea of like we have to think about things differently, and to show you again, no, we're not dying for Israel, and it's like, well, people are literally dying for Israel right now. Like, and what are we going to do about it? This thing implies and implores people to think differently about the situation, because here we are, despite everyone saying that they wouldn't do it, all these claims of why we wouldn't, and it's happening again. You know, not to be defeatist, not to black pill, but to say there needs to be a smarter, more strategic, more tactical approach, hence infiltration, in order to actually get the reins of the government, get the reins of power back into the playing field in which that you have an ability to actually articulate, but also influence in the direction you'd like to. And if not you, someone who has your interests at heart too. And it's just unfortunate, obviously, because I just foresee it either getting significantly worse, or I think at this point, maybe the best hope is that Iran can come up with some kind of primitive warhead, and then everyone just backs off. That might actually be the best option in the cards here. So I want to move over to the Lindsey Graham story of him dying. We'll go to this one here, put up on screen. This is Lindsey Graham. The quote, no foul play is indicated in Senator Lindsey Graham's passing per Fox News. And you can see this came out rather quickly on the next day. I believe, yeah, it was the next day. And it is probably almost in the immediate of people trying to, what would you say, downplay this. Although here's what I would say is specifically, the coincidences here actually, I think they do implore people to actually look at this with maybe a bit of a suspect eye. And for many of the reasons I already mentioned at the beginning of the show. But it is also, you know, you see that and you go, it really wouldn't be that unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about the guy who is probably the most vocal in terms of going to war, the most vocal of being pro-Ukraine, pro-war in general, right? What's the story about him? Lindsey Graham's not seen a single war he hasn't fallen in love with. And there's a good clip from Hassan too, I'll go to as well. And it's crazy that I even have to say that, but Hassan was actually, you know, broken clock, right twice a day. He was right about this. Like, this was a traitor to this country. This guy's interests were heavily relied upon Israel and war in general. His primary belief and love was Israel, and he said so himself. He said it multiple times, and we can go to a reminder if people needed. But Hassan Piker brought this great point up, which was he fought tooth and nail for this war. He fought, everything was to like continue this kind of John McCain neocon evolution of like, we have to go to war with Iran. We have to, like, everything in our power. And so Lindsey's done everything, all the lip service, all the voting, all of the events, only to get the war. And we're not in a good position. We're right now strategically losing this war against Iran. It's in a worse position. This country's worse off for it. And he died while that was the case. So he got the war he wanted, and he died while living in the war and while watching America be on the losing end of it. And perhaps, and as we're kind of going down this escalation ladder, perhaps this actually will permanently uphold Iran, at least for the time being, in this kind of current framing of what war is for the foreseeable future. So, you know, Hassan actually, I was actually impressed by the take that he had. But I was liking it because he's one of the few people that was not virtue signaling about the death of Lindsey Graham too. And it was really the gaslighting portion, again, to restate that, just very, very disgusting. I'm irritated when people just lie about how they actually honestly feel. It is a gross misuse of the freedoms that we have in this country. I understand there's obviously a bit of a song and dance. People obviously don't want to say things that would get them attacked. But at the same time, it is aggressive, right? It is aggressive how many people came out. And so much so that you just kind of get this idea of like, was Lindsey Graham like the most beloved politician in all of the United States of America? Like holy crap, like the way people are talking now, it's like this guy was like the best thing since sliced cheese. That clearly was not like, so now we're just lying. Now people are just actively lying because they want to feel good about that, or they're going above and beyond to lie because they're so scared they may actually say something honest and truthful about Lindsey Graham. So you just so it was inside of this vein. Then it's all the same mutual actors too, as people like Tim Pool, many of these fence sitters as well. But that's why I bring up the Mark Levin element too, is because you had Mark Levin and a group, and basically all of Fox, comparing Kamani dying to Hitler, like celebrating it, cheering. You know, you would have figured they were popping champagne on some of these episodes, some of these shows they were rolling. And I'm sure, did I hear Netanyahu? I did not. I did see that Netanyahu put a statement out for Lindsey Graham, which is to be expected. You know, Lindsey Graham, one of Netanyahu's greatest soldiers. I would actually be surprised if we didn't get a statement from Netanyahu, actually, wholeheartedly. But, you know, obviously they suspect the foul play. The argument seemed to come from, you know, Larry Johnson. I'll go ahead and put this up on screen here. Actually, this will be the first clip we'll see. This is Larry Johnson. I thought I had a bookmark, but I guess I don't. Larry Johnson and what's it do? Lindsey Graham. I should pull up the first one here. And here it is. And so the reason why I'm playing this clip is because, you know, the first development, people just are reacting to it going, oh my goodness, you know, good riddance, or, you know, oh, sorry to hear that. Well, the next development was nefarious. It was, oh, wait a minute. Like, did he actually, like, was that real? Was the heart attack real? Or did he get poisoned? Was the facility he was in, did it get blown up? Because I believe I did see reports that the drone facility that he was visiting was actually attacked. So then people are going like, wait a minute, how true is this? How real is this? And part of that is aided and supplemented by the fact of, again, like he was on TV, I think the day before, and he seemed perfectly healthy. And, you know, and this is somebody who I followed through his campaigning while he was campaigning there in South Carolina for the primaries. Seemed healthy, you know, healthy as healthy as you can be for like a 70-year-old man. And then, so it's very sudden. And so I think some of those elements do inquire. They go, okay, maybe we need to get some answers to some questions here. You know, yeah, Israel killed Lindsey Graham. That's right. But so this is Larry Johnson. And what he's going to explain to you is his thought process and why he believes it to be logistically impossible for this to be the case, based on the timing it would take for Lindsey Graham to have traveled back on the train to get back to the airport to actually get back to Capitol Hill. So I'll go ahead and play it instead of trying to re-paraphrase him.
Get through on the timeline. If everything's normal, he arrives normally in Kyiv because, you know, that's how they do it. They, in fact, the United States pre-coordinates with Russia so they don't attack the trains. And Russia in the past has not attacked those trains. So he arrives in Kyiv, he meets with Zelensky. At some point, there's video footage of him going through this drone factory, and he's holding up one of the drones, smiling, because it's, you know, it's sort of shaped like a dildo. So that he may have had some other thoughts going through his mind with respect to the drone.
Real.
But let's say,
that's real.
For whatever reason, it was urgent. So that he had to get back. Unless you're being medically evacuated, they're not going to bring in a military aircraft to haul you out of there on a normal visit. And so it was either he went the normal route on the train back to Poland, which is at least a 10-hour ride, maybe a little longer. Then you catch a plane, and the plane coming back to the United States is at least 10 hours. Bigger headwinds could make it 11. So that's the normal route. And I'm saying if he just did a normal, this is quick in and out, he still got home after the time that he supposedly died at home.
So that's the main argument from him. So, and he does offer the caveat. So some people weren't actually offering the caveat of this, because my first thought when I had even seen this too was like, I don't expect he's like getting on the train like everybody else. He's taking the taxi, he's getting an Uber. He's going on the bus with everybody. Like I would expect, especially for Lindsey Graham, for what he means in terms of this administration. I think Matt Kemp is right about this too. Lindsey Graham's obviously been rising to the beloveds, of the people who Trump, calls upon all the time. He says he likes them all the time. Great person. Lindsey Graham's being seen like on, next to Trump on, I believe, Air Force One multiple times now. Then I was like, I would highly doubt that he was on a regular plane. I would imagine Lindsey Graham at this point is like on a private jet or has his own kind of pathway. And so all the logistics of people who are immediately coming to the table going like, there's no way, it's impossible, are doing it from like, you know, they're using Google Maps and they're saying, well, if I was to do this, if I was to go from this drone facility in this place, you know, I wouldn't have came back at that time. But he offers the caveat that they just wouldn't do the military. They wouldn't be a military flight. They wouldn't be not for something that's standard, I guess is what they're saying. So at least Larry Johnson does mention that caveat. I wanted to bring it up because it does seem to be that's one of the developments that is the development of the conspiracy. My second thought though goes to is like, if this is conspiracy, then like, would they not have accounted for it? Like, why not wait until the next day to announce that he's dead? You know, he's unmarried. He has no kids. Like his next of kin is his sister. And I really highly doubt his sister who's married with kids is like living with Graham. You know, and it's like the one person who like probably could have definitely avoided talking about for like 24 hours and then dropping it. It's like, I highly doubt a conspiracy at that level. They're going to be like they're going to be shooting themselves in the foot over some kind of logistic issue. Because it's so easily pointed out. You know, many people were, pointing out. And that's where, kind of my brain goes too. Not to downplay anybody who has suspicions about this, but it is to say, like, just on the logistical element there, it's like, we attribute all these like great and nefarious plans, and they pull the strings, and they're like, they have all these thought processes. It's been years long, decades long, sometimes centuries long of these people who are, going hard on like, controlling everything, and they're super tightly networked. But they definitely forgot that one thing in their plan, which was he came home too early. And that, I guess maybe that's more so the lens that I look through it too, and it's like I find that really not believable. But again, Lindsey Graham, that's just being reported. The early signs are showing that he had some kind of aortic dissection, or his aorta was like cut, or it was like it had been ripped or torn. And they're calling it, and I have this written down here just so I remember it, due to arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And so, in other words, natural causes. It's like a natural thing that happens if you're dealing with this. And it backs it up too. Like if he was like flying around, going to these facilities, he's traveling constantly. And as far as I understand it, I think Paul Analysis put this out earlier, is that Lindsey Graham goes to Israel every 2 weeks, which I didn't know that, but I would imagine that is a lot of stress for somebody who is dealing with some kind of cardiovascular condition. And I think it's yet to be seen, like if he was even aware of that he had this kind of disease, if he was taking meds for it, anything like that. I know many people, it happens in my family all the time. I hate to say it happens all the time, but it's happened in my family and both my wife's family where, somebody did have some kind of ailment or some kind of cardiovascular issue, and they had no idea it was even a thing. And a lot of times they don't know until it's too late, and it turns into some kind of other condition, some other symptoms, or, you just find them when you wish that you wouldn't have. And then it turns into, calling the hospital, yada, yada. We don't need to visit all the darkness inside of that. But it is to say, like, I think that it's okay to have some healthy suspicions about it because of, like, the coincidences there, being in a warring area, obviously being a threat to Russia, being like a target of Russia, if you will. But at the same time, I think it's still, like, you still have elements where you can kind of just reasonably look at it and go, okay. The next development, though, is what was funny, and this is going to some of like the gaslighting here. I thought this was actually a great tweet from Spexo. I'll put it up on screen. And I saw other people saying this too. Spexo says, welcome back, Lindsey Graham. And I wish I had the other one in front of me, but there's another tweet where people are basically calling. So Ben Shapiro announced the addition of baby number 5 to the Shapiro family, and many people were like, "Is that Lindsey Graham reincarnated?" I'll go ahead and I'll read the chat real quick. I thought that was kind of funny. So you have two sides of it. You have some people who are like obviously making jokes about it, like kind of laughing about it. And then you have all the fence sitters, the Tim Pools of the world, the Israeli crowd, gnashing at the teeth because you dared to not enjoy that this traitor, this disgusting individual. Was it Pine Sap's tweet? Was that who I was thinking of? I thought I saw it from somebody. I don't know why, I can't remember who it was, but I bookmarked Spexos because I thought it was, it reminded me of that tweet that I saw earlier about the reincarnation. But we're going to call them, we'll call them for what they are, right? The BGR, the big gay Republicans, the big gay. There's gay and then there's big gay, and big gay is where the GOP is, And you have another one here from Tom Foe, actually. This is the one I wanted to pull up too. That's annoying. Pull it up over here. Let me click out of these two so my computer doesn't explode into a ball of fire. Tom Foe quoting the leading report, because the leading report tweet reads that Lindsey Graham had among the lowest wealth in Congress despite a lifetime in politics. And you just kind of look at that. And that kind of caught me off guard too when I saw it, but I didn't say anything or didn't reply to it. But you have Tom Foe here, he's quoting it saying, they're really trying to gaslight us into thinking he was the good guy all along. And there does seem to be some of that entering into the facility, like they wanted to avoid people, radically celebrating and cheering, because it would have, I think some people still maybe are. I know many people who are very anti-war are definitely happy about this, this happening. I would still say I do feel sorry for his soul. In the Christian sense, obviously we love everybody, want the best for everybody. But I think also Hal said it best too in the kick chat, was it yesterday? The guy had 71 years to figure it out. He never did. So there's two sides to that coin. And but just to take you to the Hassan clip, I actually think he's spot on here. And I don't know if I'm playing it for the backup or to play it because I can't believe Hassan is right. But either way, I was glad that he actually said it. He didn't avoid it. He didn't teeter around it. And I think, realistically, the show is called Offensively Accurate because beyond just wanting to be accurate and not wanting to be offensive, but most of the truth is offensive. The truth typically is something that people want to avoid. The truth, you can't handle the truth, right? It's in the same vein of, I can at least appreciate people being honest. And I think that's obviously an easy position for Hassan to take. I don't think that he needs any points awarded, but my distaste for people trying to maneuver around how they actually feel is also another element, and it's categorical too. It's not just in this scenario. It's not just with Lindsey Graham. It's all cases, okay, where people, they know what the problem is, but they're avoiding it because they don't want to suffer any kind of reputational damage. They don't want their family to think anything different about them. And so and just for another example outside of just this one, I quote tweeted earlier today. It was Libs of TikTok, because there's a video circulating that's going viral of a white couple, which seems to be grandparents with their grandson, and the grandson seems to have some kind of ailment, whether it be it's some kind of learning disability or something to that effect. He's clearly suffering from something. It seems to be that he's not all there, and there is a group of black women who are recording him and making fun of him, literally sitting right across from him. And what does Libs of TikTok say in the caption? They say a group of women are making fun of, and it's like, no, not at all. That is a group of black women. And you go why are you even omitting this? This is actually integral to the reason why they're even making fun of this kid. Do you think the same black woman would be laughing and recording a young black guy or a young black 8-year-old who's having some kind of problem? Of course they wouldn't. And by omitting it, you're now lying. You have now taken away. You've omitted the truth. And that's the kind of the straddling of the fence, the kind of because she goes, a group of women making fun of a disabled white boy. So the white she can say, she has no problem adding that in, but she's too scared to add the black element of it. It's you might as well not even written the tweet at all. It's not a group of women. It's a group of black women. And that is something categorically different than a group of white women. But it's this fear, it's this ridiculous fear of, not wanting to be racist or not wanting to be attacked for anything, not wanting to be canceled. That honestly prevents any conversation having any kind of meaningful permeation to anyone understanding how anybody's actually feeling. And, you see it, you probably see it on the timeline, you see it in conversations in your own family. And it's I'll be honest with you, I just sit there and I say, bro, just fucking say it. It's starting to make me angry. It's we're at war with a foreign country. White people are being replaced. Jews dominate media and industry and many other categories in this country. I see once every 30 minutes, I feel like House is adding another article into the Discord where an illegal Uzbekistan national who can't speak English ran over another family of 7 white people, of course. And we still have people who are I can't say black. Oh, I don't want to be racist. It's dude, fuck you. Fuck you. It's you doing that actually is making it fucking worse. And forgive the cursing, but it bothers me because it's it's making it worse. Like, we cannot forget that their existence as being seen as like these, we're on the nose, we're those credible sources, and then always omitting what parts of what is making that the reality. Like, we are in a race war. Okay, we are in a race war. Okay, culture is the expression of one's race. We are in a race war. It is not a culture war. We are in a race war. Those women, one of the primary reasons that they did that was because they don't like or hate white people. They thought it was funny. But, and it's like, because they exist, people look at them, and you have others who maybe are less in tune, or maybe people who are just like slightly political, affiliated. They see Matt Walsh do it like that. They see, and maybe less so Matt Walsh, but they see like others do that, Lids of TikTok and these other, conservative voices. And it kind of builds into their head this idea of, well, maybe I don't want to be racist too. We can call these problems out without bringing up race. And it continues to cement this idea that race is not a primary part, or if not the singular most primary part of why we were having these problems. And it's the continual denial. It is like living in denial. And it's a certain point, man, we have to move away from that. Like, at a certain point, like, can we move away from the denial phase? Let's just get to grievances. Let's get to the, what's the stage after denial? It's in like excuse, or like, or blame shifting. I'm trying to remember like the different stages. Like, can we go to the next one at least? Because continually denying this reality is, for one, it's making my blood boil every day and daily because of what happens and what the consequences are of that. But secondarily, you go, like, at a certain point, bro, like, how are you not even getting mad? Now, to be fair, Chai Rychik, the person who runs Lids of TikTok, is Jewish. But there's others that are not Jewish that you just go like how are you not recognizing this? And it's also the same point, like, it's either two things. Like, either you are too stupid to recognize it, or you are doing it out of fear, or you're doing it because you're not actually all that interested in really solving the problem. You want to maintain and sit in the center right, where all the money is, where you're not really going to offend anybody, and you're going to get your your pats on the back because you're talking shit about communists. It's like, well, listen, dude, like, like, I just can't take it anymore. And I don't think other people can take much more of it either. So why don't we just be real and honest people, and we just start actually talking about these problems for what they are? We watched Carmelo Anthony. We didn't watch, but we watched how he literally stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest because he was asked to leave. And what did we see in the reaction after the court case? We see black mothers. I don't even know what to tell my kid. I can't even do a good impression because I speak too fluent English. But you have black mothers who are crashing out, going, well, I don't even know what to tell my kids. I don't even know what to tell my kids now. Like, tell your kids what? Like, don't go to areas you're not allowed in. Don't fucking stab people. Are you kidding me? Like, and why do you think this one's like that? Why? Because in her worldview, dude, in her worldview, the only reason this is even happening is because there's this matrix of all these hateful white people. And what are they able to build that off the back of? They're able to build that off the back of, there's an entire conservative network that refuses to talk about race, and in fact actually cements her position, as in, they never come at us, but we always go at them, and they halfway back us up on, yeah, there's these white people who are acting out. Do you understand? Like, I think people are like, I'm surprised that wasn't a much more of a viral moment than what it was. We're talking about a black mother at, outside the court dealings and the court ordeals of Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. And what she's saying is, she's watching as him get rightfully convicted, going, I don't know what to tell my kids anymore. How do you even get there? For one, how is what's even your perception? And then it rather quickly turned into like, there's no black people in the jury. It's all a race thing. But it's just like, do you understand how removed from reality you have to be to see that case play out for what it was? And your first reaction is like, I don't know what to tell my kids anymore. Well, I would question, like, what were you even telling them in the first place? Were you telling them that, yeah, it's okay when white people do it, you better get yours? You don't ever let no white boy talk to you like that? You don't ever let no white girl talk to you like that? Is that what was being told before? Is that why she's saying this? Is because what she's primarily telling to her kids is, no, you better check those white people. Because that's the only way I can understand it. Because this court case is a kind of a resounding, like, yeah, black people actually really can't get away with everything. And so I'm assuming her reaction to that is, well, damn. I guess now I don't know to tell my kids, because are you telling me I got to tell my kids they have to respect the rule of law? They can't just kill white people when they feel like it? In understanding the reality of the situation, that would have to be the only logical, if I was giving her the best benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, she's unhinged and insane. But she wasn't out there by herself. This black woman wasn't out there by herself, all alone on the corner. There's a single tree in the background, and it's being talked to by PBS News of all people. No, she's in a crowd of hundreds of black people who are all standing behind her going, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I am no longer going to suffer people lying or omitting things because they are terrified of being called racist. If that is you, or if you find yourself doing that, stop. Please be honest. Please tell the truth. Because this problem is going nowhere so long as everyone lies to themselves about what is really happening. This is in no way, shape, or form me saying we need to, that I hate black people, or that I want, anything beyond that. It is just it is very clearly that our tensions are racially based. The reasons why we have these rifts in culture is because of the racial and gene expressions and the reality of the races that are at odds with each other. And not to go full send on a race diatribe, but it is just I seriously can't do it anymore. I can't sit there and see people just lie about it all the time. I can't see people walk out and go through the city and live around these people and continually to excuse it and lie to themselves. It's killing us. It's literally killing us. It is this liberal empathy, and it is killing us. Either be honest or keep your mouth shut. There's just no point in even speaking. But anyways, moving back over to this, Hassan being honest about how he really feels about Lindsey Graham.
I'll start off by saying Lindsey Graham,
I agree, Joe,
in a long list of demonic entities, was exceptionally bloodthirsty. A bloodthirsty, odious monster who loved war. There was never a war that Lindsey Graham did not fall in love with. Mr. Ladybug himself. And the ultimate irony of the situation is that he achieved him and his best friend John McCain's dream of bombing Iran. He finally got to do it. And yet, the only thing he saw in the aftermath of achieving his dream, suffering from his success, was the spectacular failure it turned into in his final days. He watched the United States' century of force projection capabilities collapse. But rest easy, Ladybug. Till the bitter end, you died doing what you loved.
And obviously, I don't agree with Hassan on literally anything. But it is and obviously he's approaching this from the angle of he hates Republicans. He for that fact, he hates, he's anti-whiteness. He's all this. He's a ridiculous communist, right? He couldn't tell you anything. at least reasonable or articulate. But here, it's just refreshing because it's like, he spoke the truth. He spoke the truth, right? Which is like, that's who Lindsey Graham was. Lindsey Graham did not care about American interest. Lindsey Graham cared about Israel. Lindsey Graham cared about bombing Middle Eastern terrorists. Lindsey Graham cared about war in whichever way, shape, or form it could happen. And all of a sudden, Lindsey Graham dies. We loved him. We love the guy. He's a great person, dude. And obviously, this is to be expected from Trump because Trump has been hyping up Lindsey Graham since this administration has started. And it's just pathetic to watch MAGA go along with it. Even those who are going, I don't really like it, but and then here we are. It's just a big joke. It's like this guy was notorious for his betrayal of America. This guy was outwardly always screaming about it. Visiting Israel every 2 weeks. Like, who does that? The sitting senator of South Carolina is taking every 2 weeks a trip to Israel. What for? So, and again, and just to remind people again too, like I'm saying all this, and I'm also going to back up as well too. So you tell me how you feel as well. So here's the next one. Now this is a short clip here, but this is really where he kind of like started letting it loose. This is from PNW Gorilla. He says the amount of people trying to pretend like this video doesn't exist is actually wild. And here it is.
Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for. So we have a commander-in-chief in President Trump, who I think is Ronald Reagan plus, plus, plus. Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel.
Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I'll be with Israel till my dying day. Here's another one. This is to show you. This is where I saw it from. This is from Adam Analysis.
Well,
just some of this from Lindsey Graham, and we might not watch the whole thing here, but just to really get a refresher on like who this person was. And I think Adam Analysis. This is from Ron Paul, but I believe the person who's talking actually is the co-host of the Rand Paul show or the Ron Paul show. Forgive me, I'm forgetting what his name is.
Thumbs up from everyone. Okay. Well, I'm Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. I'm back. I come here every 2 weeks whether I need to or not.
I'm back. I come here every 2 weeks whether I need to or not. So what is a senator from South Carolina? Why is he going to Israel every 2 weeks? So anyway, so here's the article. Put this up, and we're going to play a couple of clips because Senator Graham did a press conference, as you said, Dr. Paul, in Israel, of course. It's not good enough for him just to be, put on that, go back one if you can. It's not enough for him to be on every single Sunday show. He also has to go to Israel and grab the microphone. But here it is from Dave DeCamp. From Israel, Senator Graham pushes for war on Iran while admitting troops can be hit. Let's listen to that first video. Now, we did talk about this yesterday, but.
So before they get into it, when they're talking about Lindsey Graham, obviously, and we'll pull it up a little bit forward. We're talking about Lindsey Graham just being like, oh, we'll take the casualties. Yeah, should Iran be responding? Well, of course they should. It's like he didn't care. Like the boots on the ground thing didn't mean anything to him. Like he was somebody who was extremely just war excited him, right? Holding blood feast. And to have it retconned in like 24 hours by this disgusting administration and all the people who want to support it. Just something that I can't let slide.
Let's play it on that first video. Here we go.
And absolutely they could. Can Iran respond if we have an all-out attack? Absolutely they can. I think the risk associated with that is far less than the risk associated with blinking and pulling the plug and not helping the people as you promised.
And so what's he meaning there? He's specifically saying that it's better for the United States to have American soldiers die in a war against Iran than it is to stop supporting Israel. That was his position. And I'm sure it went much further than that. This is him holding himself clean in public, if you will. And Tel Aviv, here we are. Every 2 weeks, whether I need to be there or not. And the other development with this, which is probably just generally just less exciting overall, is the reality that his sister was appointed or was firstly endorsed by Trump, recommended by Trump, I believe on Truth Social. You know, she should go in. And there is a bit of like a story to this too. You know, House sent some information into, I was reading about it as well. And so Lindsey Graham's parents, so Lindsey Graham and his sister, their parents died within 15 months of each other. So Lindsey Graham and his sister are extremely close. And also at some point, Lindsey Graham also adopted his sister so that she could receive his military benefits, you know, when that day came. And obviously that day has come. So the sister specifically, and her name is like Noreen. What is it? It's like something weird. It's Darlene Graham Nordone is her name. So Darlene Graham Nordone is Lindsey Graham's sister, and she has been, as of like 4 o'clock earlier today, she was officially appointed by the governor. I think his name is Governor McMaster's there in South Carolina. So she will now be finishing out at least until January 3rd of 2027. So there will still be a special election. Some of the people who early kind of put bids in too, like Nancy Mace, obviously. And so I actually laughed at this too when I was reading the article that House had sent earlier. And what was funny about this was, I don't know if anybody knows this because it wasn't that big or anything, but Nancy...
You don't seem to understand. Earth isn't yours to conquer.
At MattKemp5765 sent $99 on. Did you see the video of the black people I think in NC beating the out of white girl cop? I mean punching her in the face. Crazy AF, and I think Lindsey was low-key higher ranked than Trump FR.
No, I didn't see that video. I did not see that video in North Carolina. Although I feel like I see something similar every single day though, to be honest with you. But a huge thank you to Matt Kemp. I appreciate the super chat, brother. Thank you greatly. And he says at the end there, I think Lindsey was low-key higher ranked than Trump for real. That is actually that actually might have some truth to it. You know, I can't lie. That maybe actually be realistic, wholeheartedly. And again, you know, I don't know who ran the article. It wasn't from Jerusalem Post. It was from one of the other ones. It was Al Haaretz. They ran an article today too, going, you know, Israel just lost Trump's ear, you know, or something to that effect. And they're making the point that their closest, their biggest and closest person to Trump is Lindsey Graham. Like, you know, Israel just lost its voice in Trump's ear. You know, that's where the article is coming from. So Israel's obviously, you know, they're mourning the loss of one of their greatest soldiers, if you will. So maybe some truth to that ultimately. And Hilton Head Groper says it would, because I said Nancy Mace. It's funny. That is actually hilarious. Just like, that is hilarious. But Nancy Mace, the point I was going to bring up, she ran for governor and she was fifth. She was fifth place running for governor. And I think out of like 5 or 6 people too. So she came like almost like dead last in the governor race. Nancy Mace put up an early bid to go in. She had an early bid to go into the, into this. And apparently the Trump team like resisted immediately. There's some resistance from people who like did not want to see Nancy Mace. And the reason being is because Nancy Mace, similar to like Lauren Boebert and like Thomas Massey, MTG, and a few others, was very vocal early on about the Epstein files. And I think that's kind of permanently put a wedge between Mace and the MAGA team. And so I think we're basically going to watch Nancy Mace's career kind of just fizzle out and drop out because she dared to stain the king, if you will. So she was one of them. They were also floating out the lieutenant governor, who also could actually appoint the sister, but ultimately didn't. Her name is Pamela Ebbett. Russell Fry was being looked at. Mark Lynch even said that he would have been interested in doing another stint in there too. But there's somebody else too. Yeah, Scott Bessent. We talked about Scott Bessent, and the report was that he was actually fielding calls. Like Scott Bessent was fielding calls, which made me think like they maybe were willing to go way deep just to ensure they could have somebody they wanted to see take the place there and finish out that term. And that would have probably been in the special election. But even with her being appointed, that doesn't mean that the election in the primary seat is just gone. It will still be happening. And as far as I understand, I think it's going to happen like on August 11th or the 25th. But it seems to be there still will be a special election for the seat for the rest of the term. And I'd have to go check at it too, like at what point these terms are at. It should be at the beginning of it. So we'll see. And again, what she's basically doing is she's finishing Graham's term. So even if Graham would have lost the primary, I believe he still would have been serving until January 3rd of 2027. So, and the other point with that too, it's like it's a woman, like, you know, like I don't want there to be a, you know, another woman politician. I think it's just not, it's not surprising now at this point, wholeheartedly, like even in the slightest, because now you have this. I mean, Trump's always picking and selecting women, all the time. Forgive me, I lost my train of thought. Someone's yelling outside the door. But I did catch, JR says, didn't know if you read the comments from last stream atlas, but the 4K footage of Telegram selling prone has been debunked by numerous sources, including the state prosecutor. I did see your comment and I replied to it. I don't understand what you mean by debunked, at all. I've seen the complete opposite. I've seen all the people they're now pivoting, to the fact of now they're saying that Ty Robinson, okay, maybe he was the trigger man. But no, I don't know. You can debunk. Yeah, debunked is in like, you're probably someone just making up some more bullshit, because no matter what happens, no matter what evidence will be put in front of them, it's Israel did it. I'm actually, I'm getting to the point where like, maybe I just won't even cover that anymore until we get to the end of the trial. Because people are just like, the psychosis that people are in about this is just making me sad. I was like angry at first, but like now I'm actually just like, I'm literally getting depressed that people like will not pull their heads out of their ass. So those are for the Lindsey Graham element of it, you know, a lot in there, a lot to kind of pay attention to, but ultimately like it amounts really to like a nothing burger. And I think really you're just going to see, you know, maybe there'll be a chance that somebody respectful will win. But I would keep my eye on Scott Bessent coming back in for that special election. And again, there had been some reports too of like Scott Bessent perhaps being not on the best terms with Trump. I'm trying to remember some of the reports. I know that he did get into a shouting match at one point with somebody else. And Scott Bessent actually was one of the people who was getting relegated with JD during some of the early portions of the war as well too. They were pushing over Scott Bessent to be a part of, you know, the JD Vance, the Joe Kent, the Tulsi Gabbard, who had to stay in the actual DC situation room, and then others, you know, the Pete Hegseths, the Rubios, the people who are closer to Trump, were going with him to the Mar-a-Lago situation room. But no, now we're going to go. I wanted to react to the Clavicular and Israel interview. I wanted to play the interview first, and then go to the comments he gave on stream. So I've watched the interview portion of it, but I didn't see the comments he gave on stream. But yeah, so switching gears, going to Clavicular and Israel, and I found this just to be funny. Because it's like everyone attacked him at first for even going to Israel in the first place, which I'm okay, fair. But beyond there, though, it's like how it ended is like, I don't think anybody would have expected this. And I think that does goes to show like he is just like this autistic guy who only cares about looks maxing. This isn't him being mad at Israel or like anti-Semitic or showing his power level. It's him like a real reaction of a guy who's like wondering why, no matter all the efforts and lengths he goes to show that he's not political, that that he's still getting attacked and being forced to answer like political questions. So it's like more so like a frustration part of him than anything. But here's this.
Why don't you apologize? I need to apologize? Why don't you apologize to me for wasting my time?
You know what everybody in Israel is talking about right now, right?
Well, everyone in Israel is talking about, you know, what we're doing that's good. You know, so for you to kind of start the interview off in like a negative manner doesn't really make sense. You know, we came here after a ceasefire ended in a very unstable state, technically, to kind of show that, you know, Israel's a safe place. So for you to start off in an antagonistic way, I'm really, you know, kind of just...
I can't read any of this, by the way.
How can you not talk about
like
the song?
Poor journalist.
Just tell me.
Was it Stephen Miller?
No. So if you're going to be negative, and ask about, you know, like old, you know, situations that are not so positive, then I really don't want to talk to you.
That's
playing the Clovercross incident. Was it Elon? It was Elon. I know Elon for sure, but I think he also got into it with Susie Wiles, and Susie Wiles has gotten in a group of them. Yeah, can we get Undercover Jew to come decipher this language in front of me? This backwards, ridiculous looking language.
January is not that old, you know. You got kicked out of a club just because
right
of this.
After I was kicked out of the club, you know, the owner called me and profusely apologized.
That's a lie.
Offered me to come
We
back
checked.
and comp my entire night. So it was just a mix-up.
No, that's a lie. So why
He did
not clean the
everything
page?
too.
So why not? So why don't you clean the page and, you know, talk about how much I've done for this country's reputation, because it's in utter shambles. You go on any social media page, the amount of propaganda among Gen Z and misconceptions, you know, so that's what's doing the real damage, right? Not anything I've done. That, you know, we're here trying to set everything straight. I don't have to be in Israel, and you know, quite frankly, if you're like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. I don't want to be talking to someone who's going to be rude.
We understand, but there's an online backlash, you know.
Because I'm here to do good things. So there's a backlash because of people like you.
I'm here to do
there's
good
people
things.
like me. Online backlash because people like you, like me, talking about negative things. So why don't you acknowledge the fact that I'm here doing a good thing for the country, showing off Tel Aviv's beauty, showing off that it's safe. Okay. So why don't you talk about that, and then there won't be a bad PR. Okay. So you're the one who's causing these issues. So you are the one. You are the one who's doing this.
How can you not see the comments?
How can you not see? Because I can't read them. It's in a different language. It's in
do you have AI and Google Translate?
I can't. I have Google Translate. Yeah. I'm live on TikTok. Yeah, I could totally. Yeah, let me copy and paste every single little thing into Google Translate.
But you surely understand that people are angry.
No. Let me make you understand. I'm here for a good thing, and you're trying to drag me through the mud. And, you know, give me reputational damage. So quite
what's
honestly,
wrong with apologizing about singing Heil Hitler?
No, this interview is over.
Just apologize.
Why don't you apologize to me for? Why don't you apologize?
I need to apologize.
Damn. Dude, that's crazy. You catch at the very end, the guy starts getting mad, and he's like, "Why don't you just apologize?"
This interview is over.
Just apologize.
Why don't you apologize to me for? Why don't you apologize?
I need to apologize.
Why don't you apologize to me for wasting my time?
Why are you afraid to apologize? Just apologize.
Like, that's crazy. That'd be enough to make anybody know. But it is. I mean, it is a reflection. Somebody said it well enough. His visit wasn't enough for them from Romulus, and that is actually. I mean, that's exactly correct. I mean, this is them essentially saying, like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we'll take nothing except for you getting on your hands and knees and begging for forgiveness that you dared to like jig in a club while a song was playing. Like, wow. You know, so maybe those who are maybe even less politically acclimated, even in Clav's audience, are probably taking wind of this. So there's also comments that he made also on his stream afterwards. But this guy, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, like, imagine like getting the interview, and they probably didn't even tell him that too. They probably said, "Hey, would you like to do an interview? Talk to us about your trip here." And it's like, in a minute in, they're already attacking him and saying, "Yeah, now you need to apologize for what you did." I'd be heated too. I'd be like, like the Greta Thunberg, like, "How dare you? How dare you?" And so I think, was it this one? It was this one. This came from Grimaldus as well. Clavicular is leaving Israel early after constantly being attacked by Jews. People are so negative to you here, it almost makes you want to say, well then, I'm not going to come back. That's why I'm leaving. So here we go. Lovely photo, by the way. It's probably exactly what it looked like.
What I wanted to say was I did some interview today, and
strikes you as you ask you to apologize.
So I go downstairs, I just wake up, they're spamming my phone because I guess I slept 5 hours past the interview, but they waited around. And as soon as I put the fucking AirPod in and this guy starts talking.
Like, I hope that in and of itself shows you, like, the dude is just like, he's just living. He's just streaming. He's just living, looks maxing. 5 hours after the interview, like, I'm waking up. I'm like, oh shit, man. Oh, they waited for me? Oh, that's cool, I guess. Like, it's like, that doesn't even care. Like, that's why I also said at the beginning, like, I think there doesn't need to be so much emphasis here on like Clavicular's working for the Jews. Like, what? Bro, if Israel's goal is to get a bunch of men who follow Clavicular to like not be fat slobs, okay, bro, I'm pro-Israel then. I'll literally go, okay, that's the one thing I might agree with Israel on. Like, if their goal is to like get this guy on their back, and they're gonna start pushing like, you need to go to the gym, you need to like not listen to women, stop engaging with, you know, it's like, you know, it's like, I think that's actually a good thing. Like, I don't know why I would be against that, actually, by the way.
He starts talking about the whole club thing, of course. I'm like, really, dude? Like, and he's like, well, you know, why don't you want to talk about it? Your reputation is in shambles, whatever. And I said to him, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, my reputation is damaged because people like you, shitty reporters who, don't want to do anything but get clickbaity titles, want to keep bringing it up instead of the fact that Israel's PR has massively benefited from the fact that I'm here, right? The fact that people realize you can actually go clubbing and do relatively normal shit over in Tel Aviv rather than it just being in a complete war zone, right?
That's funny.
So that kind of thing happens, and then people are still negative to you here. It almost wants to make you say, well, then I'm not going to come back. It's that's really just what happens.
I will say it is a struggle to listen to him talk. Like, I'm not even trying to be mean, and like, but I will say, like, it is difficult to listen to someone when they have a hard time articulating their points from point A to point B to point C. And I think there's an element of that I am spoiled by Nick. And I will be honest with you, there's been portions where I find, for one, I also like go back and listen to myself too. And when I can catch myself saying like and too much, I literally want to put a gun to my, no, just kidding. I mean, like, it makes me cringe. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, how are these people even listening to me? And it's gotten worse with time. The more I've noticed it, I've even gotten that way with Myron Gaines of all people too. I had a talk with, who was it? I think it was Campo about this, where it was specifically the episode he did with Nick on the first night before the girls were there, when they were covering a bunch of different geopolitical things. And Myron was just, well, like, did you, Nick, take it from here. I'm like, you're just like, what's going on? I just like, you're just like, you're frozen. You're like, it's like you're like at the peak, you're not going down, but you're at the cliff. You don't know what's next. And that's not a shot at Myron by any means, but it's to say, I've been a lot more keen of that, especially because early on in my career here, many people made it a note to tell me when I said too much. So I have specifically gone to lengths to try to completely excise it out of my vocabulary.
So, yeah, that's why I'm leaving. All the liberal media in Israel kind of gets mad that I'm talking to them and starts putting all this press about, how COLLAB's, an anti-Semite, COLLAB's this, whatever, basically just shitting on me. And I'm like, I didn't have to come here, right? I didn't have to at all. I came here because, obviously Alec invited me and we're going to have a good time. But it's like, it's almost like if you do somewhat, like the goal of being here was.
That's so accurate from Whitey Apps. Myron, tell these retards you're voting Democrat. I get it, but tell everyone else who doesn't get it. It's like, he did that on nearly every item. He was like, now I understand why Iran's doing what they're doing. Now you tell them. And now I understand why Israel's doing that. So, but you tell them for people in the back who aren't getting it. It's like, dude, talk about someone who just lacked. And you would be surprised by that too, because Myron is someone who covers this stuff like every single day. And this is going to sound like I'm taking shots, and maybe it is. Maybe just take this as maybe a critique. But you cover this every single day, and you're struggling to have like supplemental information to like help guide the interview, to help extend it, or be able to pivot and reflect. It just turned into like he just had to keep churning back to Nick, and Nick was the only thing that was really kind of even speaking during that. Myron, it was more so of an interview than it was a conversation. What's up, Pine Samp? Myron's admittedly a low IQ anti-Semite. I would have to agree with you on that. Very lowbrow, bad coverage of this problem from him. True. And I would also add to that too, Myron Gaines has been someone who's kind of fallen off of the playlist for me. I've actually started listening to, really, you don't honestly need someone beyond Nick at the end of the day. But I understand he only has a show for a couple of hours. So sometimes we're left wanting. Like, surely there's another anti-Semite out there, someone covering the news. Maybe you guys have these thoughts as well too. And that's when you end up finding, and that's why I always, I take coverage. I end up listening to Pine Sap when I see Pine Sap stream, or I'm hiding in the comment section of Tyler Russell, or I'm over there, lurking in Beardson's chat, so there is parts of this where you find that. And I have found myself moving away from listening to Myron as much. And also too, a lot of the content as well that he does with like the girls, like I don't listen to in general anymore. The same thing would be true of the Whatever podcast. I think it may be some of those early iterations of it when they were having people like Sovereign Bra and like Jake Rattlesnake in. It felt like there was maybe more conversations happening in like the early era of Andrew Wilson, but now it's just like it's gotten more unhinged. And I don't know who to blame. Is it the girls are getting worse, or is it that they just keep doing the same thing and I got tired of it? It got stale. Pines up saying the problem with the Jays is a lot worse than many realize. It's just these people don't dig into scholarship or text that cover it in depth. That's another thing. That's another true thing. Many people are covering it, and then I would even say the same thing is true of like the Candace crowd of like the current iteration of what's happening with Charlie Kirk. Is they start going heavy against Israel and Netanyahu, but where does Candace Owens even direct all of that at? It's like largely cut off and is basically looking at like the last 10 to 15 years, the last 20 years. She removes the religious element out of it by a mile. It was like the Frankists, right? That's why everybody brings up, the quotes like Frankists around her, because so much of what she does is like not actually going the whole distance. You could argue she's actually carrying the ball down the field, but not the right field and not all the way. So there are elements where you could say, yeah, perhaps this is decently beneficial in some realms, but look at the direction it's gone. And now I'm wholeheartedly agreeing with Nick on this, where what it looks like right now is the PSYOPs actually reversed, where so many people are sitting here saying, Israel did it, concluding and working back from motive. But where I'm seeing this is actually that became the scapegoat, forgive me. And now the left is not getting nearly as much pressure or heat as they should be. And I'm trying to think of too, what was her name? Was it Audrey Hale? And thank you. I don't know what any of these gift things are, but I do appreciate it. Thank you. And it was Audrey Hale, I believe that was her name. And she was never got to see the manifesto until months later, Tennessee shooter, the Nashville shooter. When she went in and she explicitly targeted the Christian school. I think it was the school. It might have been the church, but I think it was a school. And it was young children, and she intentionally targeted it. And inside of her manifesto that they withheld for, I think it was at least a couple months, it finally gets revealed. And I think Steven Crowder was maybe one of the first ones to break it. And they find therein, no, she explicitly had beef, ideological opposition to Christianity. She had ideological opposition to just straight people, white men. And they hide that. And the reason I bring that up is because it felt like because of the Israel narrative, the Israel did it. It basically took all of the air out of that idea, that building idea, which it's still there. Nothing really changed from it. But all of a sudden, the weirdness was, you're telling me that it was believable that these leftists do these deranged things, that Antifa does all this ridiculous stuff out in the streets all the time, picking fights with the Proud Boys, and they go in and they start trooning out. They're shooting up, school children, and all of a sudden that's just not even a realistic. It's not even a realistic thing. And so it saddens me, because I think there is an element. I think all the people who are going balls deep into this homosexual theory that Charlie Kirk was killed by Israel with no proof, working backwards from a conclusion, are falling into the psyop that is the left is using this, pushing for it. And also, there's also the brown clownery element to this too. You also have the Iranian element being pushed for it too. You also have the other foreign interference to be gained from this too. And so that's why it's made me sad. That's why I said that earlier too. It's made me sad for all the people who I think are actually falling for it, and who are kind of in and of themselves, they are becoming like the left, in the vein of, again, it doesn't matter what you put in front of them. It won't matter. You could literally show a video, and that's the point that Nick was getting to. You could literally show the video like they did in court of the shot being fired by Tyler Robinson. It doesn't matter, because now it's AI generated. And we are at this point now where it doesn't matter what facts you put in front of them, but that's why I likened it to the left. I think these people are behaving like the left in that. which is going back to, again, how many times do we need to tell people that men can't get pregnant? But it doesn't matter. And the reality is, the reason why it doesn't matter is because for the left, their beliefs in this is less so rooted in the factual biological reality of the world. It's more so rooted in their dogmatic belief of what the world should be and what they should be allowed to do, which is a hallmark different from what actual objective reality is. Pine Step saying that she's trying to induce cultural schizophrenia, so it cheapens us talking about these issues and people dismiss them out of pocket. And that is another great point. You know, and Nick, I think it was the Friday show, talked about the alternate media side of this, which is you basically had a good run from 2022. I think it was really COVID kind of induced this, where COVID, a lot of people, they had this kind of fracturing. Their relationship with mainstream media was broken because it was so abundantly obvious that all these different outlets, all these different sources were lying and then continually covering up and going out of the way to try to placate or massage the message down of, 15 days to slow the spread. And we watched as it was over and over and over again. Now it's 3 weeks. Now it's 5 months. Now we're locking down forever, maybe, and maybe we never stop. And then on top of that, it was like the lying about the vaccines. It was the Operation Warp Speed, and there's just the validity of their effectiveness, all of it. And we watched that the censorship was going. It was very abundantly obvious. And it feels like this perhaps was an element that walked that back some. I think in the words of Nick, he said, 3 steps forward, we take 1 step back. This seems to be the 1 step back. And I agree with him that it will reflect on the alternate media. And I think one of those indicators, one of those canaries in the coal mine that we talked about, was it last week, that Ben Shapiro of all people is ratioing Candace Owens. That is insane. Like, Ben Shapiro in 2023 would be a good day if he broke like 300 likes. He's got 1 point whatever million followers. It would have been a great day for him to have broken 1,000 likes, let alone like anything beyond like 500. And it's not to say that likes are everything, but they are indicators. And now he's quoting Candace Owens, directly challenging her on the thing that she's been pushing for the last 8-9 months, ratioing her with less views. And Ben Shapiro, by all accounts, is mainstream media. Like, he is mainstream. The Daily Wire is mainstream media. Now, it's not legacy media, but it is mainstream media, and the fact of what it props up is the establishment. And all that it has served to do is basically defend Trump no matter what he has done. And there's other arguments you could put in there of why Daily Wire is mainstream media, but they're also a Hezbollah network too. In the element of, it doesn't matter how bad they may be bankrupt, it doesn't matter how wrong their takes may be, they'll find another Matt Nuclear somewhere, because there's always going to be some Jewish investor willing to continue the machine. They will find, and this is, again, it goes to another element that's wrong with the right wing, or I wouldn't even say wrong, but a lacking element of the dissident right is because the dissident right doesn't possess any large quantity or any real meaningful, significant, or impactful group of men who can financially back different groups or networks to the tune of someone like a Peter Thiel, or the tune of a Miriam Adelson, or the tune of a Paul Singer, Larry Ellison, David Ellison. You could go down the line. We don't have that. It's also another huge problem in this. And so, it's gotten to the point where it's just like, it's almost just, it's sad for one, because we can recognize the problem, but it's also rough too, because I'm kind of running out of tools. I don't even know how you start to work back from that, because if portions of the dissident right have become the left in terms of not adopting their political ideologies, but in terms of adopting their behavioral patterns, I don't know what you do with that. And it is a big problem, because I think that this has captured a lot of people, and it's ultimately pulling them, into the wrong directions. But it was good to see you in here, Pine Sap. I appreciate seeing you in here, man. This is we covered this already, really, but Clavicular obviously not happy with the way the interview went. He felt like Israel should have something to offer them. I'm trying to boost your image here. I'm only, I got your IDF girl here with me. We're doing pull-ups on the bar. I'm trying to show off the clubs in Israel. I'm trying to show that they got a nightlife here. And a minute into an interview, they're going, and why won't you apologize for this song that you danced to a long time ago? as a non-political person, and he's basically like F you guys. And you can see the anger in him because of all of the lengths that he goes to be not political, and he's kind of had this outward non-political stance for, I would imagine, a few months. And I think really it was stemming from the Clubicast. He started being like, you know what? My real care in the world is like less so to be edgy. It's more so to be looksmaxing and continue my stream and to keep doing what I enjoy and I like and what I came here on, what the carpet I rode in on. And so he started taking steps back from it. And so it's not even shocking that he had this reaction. And one of the last things I'm going to go to here is the Nick Fuentes and Hunter Biden interview before we switch over to the Kick stream. And that is again, like I covered it in the beginning, supposedly from my understanding from the report here, is that, I think it was from TMZ, I was reading this, and who knows how much you can trust TMZ. They had reported basically that initially Andrew Callahan, which I think is his name, who runs Channel 5, who's also in a lawsuit too, but I don't know the details of. I did see the woman they offered to Clav. It was rough. That might have been the worst woman I saw on stream with Clav in a long time. Not trying to be mean by any sense. But inside of this, you have this Andrew Callahan running Channel 5. My only impression of him so far, I'm not familiar with him, but it was that he edited the interview with Nick Shirley and he cut out all the portions to make it seem, worse for Shirley, or to omit all the things that maybe racist or whatever. So I didn't get a good impression of him. However, I do understand he's a bit of on the center, maybe a left winger. And supposedly Andrew was already working to get an interview with Hunter Biden. And since he hadn't even finished coordinating that yet, it was Nick who had reached out. That's what TMZ's reporting is, that Nick reached out to Channel 5's camp and said that he would like a chance to have the platform to talk about just himself generally, but also some of his evolutions of thought that he's had on some of his positions he's been promoting or talking about recently. And so from what I'm understanding and reading the article, is they decided, you know what? We should do both of these at the same time.
Username Guybro just followed on Kick.
That's a funny username. Username Guybro. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for the follow. W follow on Kick. But you can read in this second sentence here that reportedly the interview was, quote, explosive as the unlikely duo almost threw hands. So I'm already excited to see the interview, actually. This will be one of the first ones I've been looking forward to. Since he kind of started doing a lot of them, and then it got to the point where he was doing so many that it felt like they were beginning to get repetitive, because all of the people were, again, similar to Myron Gaines, they didn't have anything supplemental. It wasn't a conversation. They didn't offer a comprehensive or robust view that would have been able to help guide the interview or the conversation into different areas, or maybe even have some kind of nuanced disagreement inside of those ideas. They were just like, do you actually like Hitler? Do you think he was a good person? And it just like it just stayed like in the same kind of general area, and it wasn't. So to me, I didn't even listen to the Tyson Hockley one. Whether that makes me a bad person or not, or a bad groiper, perhaps. But I was just like, I know who Tyson Hockley is. I know how he interviews, and I'm not interested in listening to another one. So I listened to some of the clips and I thought they were okay. But I would agree. I do think the Jack Neal one was really good. I also like the Bradley Martin one. I think those two were really good. The Dave Smith one was kind of okay, but it just was, it felt to me like a recycling of a lot of things that I'd already heard. And there's a few more in there too that I'm not recalling as well. I wish I could remember. I know he did a streak of them there for a while. I mean, it's always going to be good. Don't get me wrong. I guess maybe I listen to too many. It sounds repetitive to me. Maybe less so for people who don't listen to it or read the news every single day like I do. The Crowder was good. The Crowder was good because there was some beef back and forth in the debate there. I actually had somebody. Now you guys going to get a kick out of this. This is hilarious. I had somebody. I can't remember who it was, but I had somebody who was mad at me commenting on one of the videos. It's a video or stream that I did, and they were mad at me, and they're like, well, I like how you didn't bring up that Crowder wiped the floor with Nick. I'm like, I think my response to them in the comment was like, you have to be the only person on earth that thinks that Crowder won anything in that debate. Like, Talk about last man alive. We're talking Omega Man, right? Like we're talking like The Walking Dead, The Last of Us. Like you were the only person who thought that was you, and it's because you're the only person here and have nothing else to back it up. Like that to me, it just blew me away. But understand inside of that though, the reality of the reason that person is even saying that is not because they thought that Crowder won. It is because that served again as an expression of the resentment towards Nick and whatever his positions, maybe him in of itself, because it was just, again, sad to see someone who's on the dissident right, who in any other scenario would be laughing and not chopping it up or yeehawing it up with Crowder or promoting them in any sense, but actually moving to, no, Crowder wiped the floor with them because they're that resentful of Nick. And that's when you go, that's just sad. It really is just kind of sad. So many stops on Generational Run. We're red pilling the host. Yeah, it was a great run, man. Beautiful run. But I did like the Crowder one because it was contentious. It was different. It was not somebody who was just trying to get, the background. Because how many times did we hear the Cassie Dillon story and the introduction and how he met Ben Shapiro? It's like, listen, I followed Nick for a while. It's like, I know all of this too, so I'm maybe more so paying attention to the clips to find something that I don't know, or another topic being broached in a way I hadn't heard before. But again, it could just be me, like I listen to this guy all the time. I'm going back and listening. I'm playing reruns sometimes of some of the older topics if it's relevant to something I'm going to be covering that day. But it's good. With that though, guys, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Kick. We'll be covering the rest of everything on Kick. Largely going to be reacting to stuff over on Kick. We covered the mainstay topics here. I appreciate everybody who was here, though. I do appreciate the support, all the jewels, the gems, the gifts, whatever that even means. I do appreciate it. It looks cool in the chat room over here, the chat box. I think it's funny. And I do appreciate the super chat that came in as well. So we'll be switching over to Kick. Let's give me a couple minutes to just get over on Kick and switch it up and reset the stream, and then I'll be going again directly. So give me about 3 to 4 minutes to get that switched over, and we'll be covering Michael Knowles watching the Red Jedi edit. We have the censorship incoming on X, which I could have covered here, but I will cover on X too, or on Kick, forgive me. We have a Caleb Hammer video to watch. Jay Dyer went on Tucker, by the way, for anybody who didn't know. I haven't seen any of that. I saw a portion of it. There's a Rabbi Shmuley fighting a weirdo. I don't even know where they were. And we also have a video of Israeli settlers chasing CNN journalists. So a lot to look into and a lot more chill as well too. So I'll see you guys over on Kick. But as always, Christ is King. Undoubtedly, Christ is King as always. Was, is, and always will be. And also, let's not forget, like, the most important thing that we should be doing here is obviously being the best Christians we possibly can be, reading our Bibles, going to church, going to Mass, and being the best Christians, walking the walk as best as we possibly can, arming ourselves with all of the fruits of the Spirit, and being everything that we were meant to be, everything that we have to correct ourselves to be. That's above all, and it can't be missed. I mean, I say it as much as I can. I try to say it every stream, but it can't be missed. Like, if you are not in your Bible, you need to be in it. If you're in your Bible, but you're not.
Turtle Milk 69 just followed on Kick.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow on Kick. I appreciate that. And if you are in your Bible, but you're not understanding things, find a way to understand them. Whether that is you're talking to your priest, your pastor, you're trying to read up on it from some kind of scholarly website. Keep going. There is never an element in which you are ever going to go, I know enough about Christianity. I've read my Bible enough. Oh no, sorry, I've gone to church enough. Impossible, not real. We will never be enough, and we're always going to fall short. So you have to continue it. And also too, inside of that, the closer and the tighter you hold these things to your chest, to your heart, and you do them and follow them and are disciplined, the easier it becomes. The more just as a second thought. It's a muscle memory. It's just the way you are. That's always been what I've always tried to do, what I wanted for myself. And so I did everything in my power to be able to be that. And sometimes it takes the form of even talking about it too, you know, on the live.
Hilton Head Grow Viper just followed on Kick.
I appreciate all the follows on Kick. Thank you guys very much. And, you know, as always, we can't get any deportation, so we'll settle for impeachments. So impeach the entire administration, J.D. Vance, all of them included, every single person that's in part of that administration. Impeach them, put them in prison, don't care. Investigations, corruption, see the enrichment. What's the rug pulling going on in the meme coins? All of it in an attempt to weaken the GOP brand, to bring about somebody, anybody, literally, Lord, anyone, who is not this current iteration of the establishment that we have right now. And with that, any girl over 150 pounds, we're going to get shot from a cannon to Israel, no questions asked. And for any girl between 125 and 150 pounds, this is your 90-day notice to lose the weight, or you too will be shot from a cannon to Israel. Appreciate everybody who is here. I will see you guys on Kick. Give me about 2 minutes. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is